Hello YouTube, how's it going? This is the crossover and I'm back with another video. Today is going to be another one of my scouting profiles for the 2022 NBA draft. And today we are going to be taking a look at Kentucky's TyTy Washington. So without any further delay, let's get straight into the video. Moving on to some stats regarding TyTy Washington, he is 20 years old, stands at about 6 feet 3 inches, weighs about 200 pounds, and has a 6 foot 9 inch wingspan. Very solid physical profile for the young guard. And this is his first year at Kentucky. He is a freshman where he is averaging a very solid 13.6 points, 3.9 rebounds, and 4.4 assists per game. He also has a very solid effective field goal percentage of 56% and is shooting 77.4% from the free throw line, which is very solid. And as usual, I always include 3 point attempt rate for all these prospects. And TyTy Washington has a 3 point attempt rate of 27.6. While that may not seem all that high, I will get into his shot profile later on in the video to make it look better than it seems. And he also has a assist percentage of 23.6%, which is very solid considering he's the second ball handler for this Kentucky team. Their lead ball handler is recent transfer Severe Wheeler from Georgia. So considering the fact that he is the second ball handler, having a 23.6% assist overall assist percentage, is very solid. Moving on to the strengths of TyTy Washington as a prospect, I'll just start off by saying this. I believe him to be the best point guard in this class, hands down. I think he's a tier above guys such as Gene Montero or JD Davidson, or a guy that I'll make a video later on in Kennedy Chandler. But again, I just believe TyTy to be a tier above these guys, and one of the main reasons why is just the pace and poise he plays with. I feel that for a player such as Gene Montero, he can be very erratic, and that's a bit alarming to see, especially given the competition that he is playing with. JD Davidson, even though he is, I think his poise and the control and feel that he has is very impressive. It's just TyTy's is just on another level, and he's doing it in a starting role. For I think Kentucky is just a better team than Alabama, really. And I understand that he's playing alongside Severe Wheeler, who's one of the best, lead ball handlers in the country. But regardless, all you have to do is just watch TyTy play and just, observe his feel and whatnot to just tell that he's got it. And just the poise and play and pace that he plays with, as I mentioned, he's just always in control. As I mentioned before, some of the other point guards in this class are just erratic, and that's just not TyTy. He's always in control. It doesn't matter what defense he's facing, whether he's being trapped, whether he's being pressed. He just always makes the right play, and you just love to see that from such a young guard, and especially from a guard that's not necessarily the lead ball handler of the team as well. And moving on to another one of his strengths is just his handle. It's very smooth, and I love his change of direction. And he's not necessarily going to be like the shiftiest of players, right? His handle isn't necessarily something crazy. Like comparing him to a player, like I don't believe his handle is as good of a player as Darius Garland. I think Darius Garland is a lot more shiftier than TyTy Washington. However, he does have a very solid handle in his own right, and his change of direction is very impressive. And he loves his hezzies. He loves his hezzies, especially in pick and roll situations, which is something that I will mention in a bit. And he loves his spin moves, especially. He loves to lull his defenders asleep by kind of getting them on his back, and then he'll kind of face them up. He'll kind of spin around, face them up, and then he'll spin again, and he'll beat his man that way. And that's very impressive to see from a freshman. Even though he is 20, he is still a freshman. It's very impressive to see him be able to manipulate defenders that way. And moving on, in my opinion, TyTy Washington has the best floater in this class. His right-handed floater is automatic. It's his go-to move, which can be a bit of a detriment. I'll talk about that later on, but I feel that his right-handed floater is the best shot in his arsenal. As I mentioned, it's his go-to move. It doesn't matter whether he's attacking from the corners, from the top of the key, whether he's attacking from the wing. If he's on the left side of the court, if he's on the right side of the court, he's going to shoot that right-handed floater, and it's going to go in 9 times out of 10. And I love to see that because I feel like his right-handed floater is such an elite part of his skill set that I feel like it's going to translate from day one. And you love to see that, right? You love to see a young guard be able to have a move that's going to be automatic and not necessarily a move, but a shot that's going to be automatic. Like you might want to question his shooting from behind the arc, maybe his finishing. Not necessarily saying that those are concerns for me, but I'm just saying theoretically those are some things you could question. But with TyTy, undoubtedly that right-handed floater, he's going to be able to get that off at the NBA level, and he's going to be able to knock it down efficiently at the NBA level. And it's just impressive to have such an elite finishing method in his skill set, again, for a freshman. And moving on to more of the playmaking side, I love the passes that TyTy makes, and again, in part it has to do with his pace and just his poise and feel, and that every pass that he makes is just seemingly perfect. And what I mean by that is that he just knows how much air or pop to put on his passes. For example, let's say Oscar Tshiebwe is posting up on the block and TyTy's on the wing and he's trying to make an entry pass. And Oscar Tshiebwe's man, who is, for those of you that don't know, he's the big man for Kentucky. Let's say his man is pressing him up, right? He's semi in his face, right? He's not necessarily letting the pass get in, and Tshiebwe will put his man up, and TyTy will launch a bullet right to his hand, right where the ball needs to be, and he'll hit Tshiebwe in a way that enables Tshiebwe to not have to fumble the ball or anything. He'll just catch it right in stride and go up with and just spin around and dunk the ball. And you see that a lot from TyTy. Every pass he makes is just perfect in terms of his delivery. And there's a couple examples that I've seen where he'll be Kentucky will be in a fast break situation and do a great job of just tossing the ball ahead of defenders. Real soft, not a bullet, nothing strong, just a nice little soft floater, almost like a floater pass up over the defender to whether it be Jacob Toppin or any of the other athletes that Kentucky has. It just feels like every pass that TyTy Washington makes is just perfect. And again, you love to see that from a freshman. And moving on to his pick and roll ball handling capabilities, where his poise and pace translates over to his ball handler duties in pick and roll situations very well. He's an extremely patient pick and roll ball handler. And again, as I mentioned with his handle and change of pace, he loves to kind of lull big men asleep, and he loves to use that change of pace to kind of hit them with hezzies and attack. But what I really like is he has a bit of a two-man game going with Oscar Tshiebwe, where Tshiebwe loves to spot up right around the free throw line, kind of like he loves to pop out, but not necessarily to the 3-point line, to the free throw line. And I think it's extremely impressive on TyTy's part, because it would be one thing if Tshiebwe could space out to the 3-point line, but he's not. He's spacing out from the free throw line, and most of the time the pick and roll between the two is initiated at the top of the key. So that means that Tshiebwe isn't even necessarily popping out. He's kind of just cutting it, and then he kind of just stops at the free throw line. And TyTy does just such a great job at manipulating not only his man but Tshiebwe's man to commit to him attacking, but he's never really gonna attack the basket. Like, he attacks the basket, of course, but not all the time. And he does a great job of just kind of lulling them. It's almost like I've heard before that the best guards are very bouncy. That you never know what they're gonna do. They're just always bouncing around, and that statement resonates with TyTy so well, because in those situations he does a great job of just bouncing around, and you don't really know whether he's gonna attack or pass, but he always does a great job of making the big man commit, and he does a great job of hitting like curl around passes around either his man or usually it's his man, because in those situations it's typically Tshiebwe's man will step up, and then TyTy's man will kind of shade him, and TyTy does a great job of hitting Tshiebwe around his man, and that's only going to improve at the NBA level, right? Having that feel and that patience and the ability to deliver those passes in a relatively difficult situation, again, because it's not like Tshiebwe's giving him a lot of room to really operate on the court. You have to keep in mind that there's three other defenders on the court as well, and Kentucky doesn't have a lot of great shooters, so teams can kind of help off their man with and help cover TyTy. So that's extremely impressive, and that's only going to translate even more effective to the NBA level, given that he's going to be playing with more space and theoretically big men who can uh, space the floor farther, excuse me, for TyTy to operate. He does a great job of hitting big men rolling as well, and he does a great job of just hitting cutters as well. And again, when he attacks, he loves to kind of lull the big men to sleep with a hezzy, and he'll get to the rim and he'll get that right-handed floater off. And again, he's just a great pick and roll ball handler overall. Moving on to his shooting, I do have some concerns about his shooting. I'll talk about that in my usual concerns segment. However, he is a good shooter. He is a great shooter. The percentages don't lie. He's essentially a 40% shooter from behind the arc. Very efficient shooter. And even though I have questions about the form, I'll talk about that again later. The release is very consistent, and I can at least appreciate that. And he's very confident in his shot, both on and off the ball. The release is quick. And again, even though I have concerns, it's consistent. So it's not like, because some prospects, their forms differ depending on shots. And, I love to see that TyTy's form stays the same no matter what. And he's a great off-ball shooter. He's a great off-ball shooter. He does a great job. He gets to his shot efficiently, especially off pick and roll situations where he does a great job of pulling up. If the big man commits too much to the roll man, or if Toshibwe is spacing the floor, he does a great job of getting to his shots and getting them off and efficiently. And again, I do have some questions that we will talk about, but he's very confident in his shot and the release is consistent. So there's not much else I could ask for. And he gets to his spots very efficiently, very quickly. He gets nice elevation on his shots, and everything about his shot is really consistent. And I love to see that. Now we're going to move on to the defensive side of the floor, where it's a bit strange. His strengths and weaknesses are a bit puzzling to me. We'll talk more about his concerns again later, but he does a great job of navigating pick and rolls as the point of attack defender. And what I mean by that is a player that I compare him to is like Matisse Thybulle, where Matisse Thybulle loves to let his the player that he's guarding get in front of him so he can kind of contest the shot from behind. And TyTy Washington does a very similar job of that. And TyTy does a great job of again, as I state, navigating pick and rolls. He does a great job of getting. He'll do a great job of getting over screens. It doesn't almost seem like he's caught up and he has to navigate. It seems like he almost does it on purpose, and he just loves to contest shots from behind. And I'm not talking about blocking shots quite like a Matisse Thybulle would, but he does a great job of just making his presence felt for the shooter. And most of the times, it doesn't even seem like the shooter can even see him, but it's you could just tell that they feel TyTy's presence, whether they can just feel him behind them, or TyTy will get a shot around, maybe potentially in front of the shooter's face. And I think he does a great job of doing that. And again, that he's shown that at the college level enough to the point where I feel like it could be a strength of his moving forward at the NBA level. And finally, on the defensive side of the floor, I think he plays passing lanes fairly well. I think he does a great job at anticipating passes and jumping lanes. And I also think he has shown upside as a strong side defender. We'll talk more about his weak side defense later on, but again, I think he does a great job of affecting ball handlers when they're attacking his side. Which again, that combined with his ability to play passing lanes, is very encouraging. Moving on to some concerns I do have with TyTy, mainly as I alluded to before, I feel that the biggest issue with his game right now is just the release on his jump shots. And while I did state that it is confident and the release is consistent, his overall form is consistent, I still feel that his elevation on his release needs work. I feel that a lot of times on his pull up threes, especially, and also on his spot up threes, his shots can be very lacking in arc. We could say a lot of times they're just straightforward, and they can hit the back of the rim. And I feel like just elevating his release would kind of fix a lot of that. And another issue that I do have with his form is just that his guide hand kind of shoots out. And I understand that the percentages are great and everything, and the free throw percentage is very solid as well, as we talked about before. But I just feel that correcting his guide hand kind of shooting out, I feel like it could lead to some inconsistencies in his efficiency at the NBA level. And I feel like just elevating his release on his shot, even if he doesn't fix his guide hand, placement, or his guide hand positioning on his release, I still feel that if all he does is just elevate his release, I feel like he'll be able to shoot much more efficiently on ball at the next level. Simply because I feel that a lot of times, with that straightforward shot, I feel like NBA players or NBA competition will have a much easier time contesting his shot than collegiate level competition. However, moving on, as I mentioned before as well, he's almost exclusively a right-handed finisher, even though that right-handed floater is his go-to move. He I You rarely ever see TyTy Washington finish with his left hand, which I feel like is something that needs to improve. I feel like his overall finishing at the rim in general needs to improve. I feel like if it's not a floater and TyTy Washington is at the rim, he can kind of struggle. He kind of tends to get caught up and almost improvise at the rim. And his left hand finishing is especially weak through excuse me, through traffic. When a big man steps up to contest, his left hand finishing, leaves a lot of room to be desired, and he does have great body control. So I do expect it to improve. However, he just doesn't finish with his left hand, and it has to improve. Like I understand being right hand dominant. Some of the best players in the world, James Harden is almost an exclusive left-handed player, but he can at least hit a right-handed floater. He can hit a right-handed layup. He can finish with his right hand at the rim over big men, and TyTy Washington has to at least get to the level where he can finish through contact with the left hand, and he does have great body control around the rim. So I feel like it's something that he can get to. If I thought that his left-handed finishing couldn't improve, I would state that. But given how good of how good his body control is when he is at the rim, combined with how soft of a touch he has on that right hand floater, I feel like his left hand finishing, should be better than it is. And I have confidence that he will work on it in the offseason and moving forward, as he progresses through his NBA career. My final real weakness with TyTy is just that he falls asleep a lot as a weak side defender, which is kind of weird given how smart his IQ is, when he is the point of attack defender, especially in pick and roll situations. And I'm not saying he's the best point of attack defender in general, but I feel like he's a much better point of attack defender though than he is a weak side defender, or and a strong side defender than he is a weak side defender. And for those of you that don't know what I mean, I essentially mean strong side is the side of the court where the ball is, and the weak side is the side of the court where the ball is not. So I feel his weak side defense leaves a lot to be desired. There's a lot of times where he does fall asleep. I have seen a fair amount of plays where his teammates will kind of have to like tell him where to go, like, hey, kind of wake up, like go. And there's plenty of occasions where his weak side defense is fine, where like he's talking and he'll make plays on the ball. He'll jump passing lanes occasionally from the weak side, but I feel that much more. I feel like it needs to be brought out of him more consistently. And I feel like there's too many times where he just falls asleep, and sometimes they do lead to scoring plays, and sometimes they don't. But just because they're not leading to scoring plays doesn't mean it's not something that he needs to work on. And I feel like it does happen a fair amount in games. I've even seen a couple plays where Kentucky will almost be in a zone press, and he'll fall asleep on the strong side, and it's kind of like what are you doing? Like why are you not active? Like like what are you doing? Like the ball's in front of you. Like how are you gonna fall asleep in that situation, right? So I feel that just being more alert on the weak side, being more assertive, maybe communicating more, as I state, could definitely help that. It feels like you'll see possessions where his teammates are kind of like, hey, like go up, like we're switching, like in this defense we're switching to like go up, or they'll kind of push him back down. And I feel like communicating and kind of keeping his brain alert will help with that. And some of that might just be effort. There's a lot of times where TyTy, you can kind of tell that he's going through the motion, so maybe it does have something to do with that. But I don't hold that as an excuse, simply because I can maybe see that as an excuse in high school. As I kind of stated in my Paulo Banquero video earlier, on in this process before the season got started. But at this point, the season's rolling. Weakness is, excuse me. Effort shouldn't be a weakness. You look at a player like Jabari Smith, he's undoubtedly going to be a top 3 pick, and he's diving on the floor and making plays. So, it's effort has to be there, especially for a guy that's being heralded, by a lot, including me, as the best point guard in this class. So TyTy Washington, just a very good prospect overall, best point guard in the class for me. His poise and as a ball handler in pick and roll situations, being one of, if not arguably the best passer in this draft. Just every pass that he makes is just seemingly perfect in its delivery. Very good shooter on and off the ball, even though his form does need work. I feel that the elevation on his release needs to be raised, in order to prevent, NBA caliber players from contesting his shots. I feel that his guide hand could use some work as well. However, he's a very good defender, point of attack defender, especially in pick and roll situations. Solid when not in pick and roll situations. He plays passing lanes very well. However, I feel like his weak side, defense needs to improve. Very solid finisher with his right hand. Has arguably the best floater in the class, and arguably in college basketball. I would definitely make that argument. He had essentially almost had 28 points against Tennessee, excuse me, Kennedy Chandler, simply based off right-handed floaters and threes. So I would make an argument that he is the best floater in the class, and arguably college basketball. However, aside from that floater, his left-handed finishing does need some work. And even though he does have great body control around the rim, his finishing overall, especially again with that left hand, needs to improve. So overall, TyTy Washington, Right now, I believe him to be the first point guard off the board. Again, I think he's head and shoulders better than any other point guard prospect in this class, and I also believe that he can go anywhere from probably 12 to maybe 8, 7. I think he's that good, and maybe you might look at the value of players, since most essentially the top 10 is basically all forwards and really just forwards, and two guards such as Johnny Davis, Jaden Ivey, maybe Jaden Hardy. Maybe some people even throw Blake Wesley into that conversation. Shaden Sharp, we'll see what happens with him. So TyTy Washington, when you're taking a look at the best players and where he ranks among them, he's probably in that 8 to 12 range. So I expect him to go around there in the draft. I could see him maybe going at that 7th spot, potentially maybe even 6, probably not. It just depends on which team needs a point guard and how early they're willing to take one. But I believe he's anywhere from the 8 to 12 best player around in this class, excuse me, and again, I expect him to not only be the best point guard, the first point guard taken in this class, but I expect him to be a probably end of the back half lottery pick when it's all said and done. And that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about TyTy. Let me know where you guys think he should go in the draft. Should he be a lottery pick, top 10 pick, maybe fall right outside the lottery? Let me know what you guys think about how he translates to the NBA, as well as how he compares to, the other point guards in this class. Do you guys like him more than G. Montero? Do you guys like him more than J.D. Davidson or Kennedy Chandler? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And aside from that, again, that's the end of the video, guys. If you like my content, please share it with a friend and subscribe if you have not already. And I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace.